Today on The Joy Sutton Show, she calls herself the fear-busting coach, and she's showing us how to stop letting fear stand in the way of our success. On Girl Talk, how to handle that coworker that gets on your last nerve. And an outdoor table fit for a queen. We'll show you how to create a fabulous tablescape. The Joy Sutton Show starts now.
Welcome to the Joy Sutton Show. When I talk to most people about their dreams, I can sense the fear inside of them. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, or even fear of trying something new. It made me wonder if fear is holding a lot of us back from living our best life. Today we brought in Tawana Kelly. She calls herself the fear-busting coach. I love that because so many of us have fears. And as I said, I meet so many people who have so much potential, but there is this fear there. So the first question I just have is, what is fear and is it normal?
Good question. Fear is absolutely normal. Every one of us experiences fear when we try something new and different. It's natural, it's normal. The thing is not to let that fear hold you back.
And that's the hard part, because when you have that fear, how do you not let it hold you back? How do you get to the point that you don't let it rule your life?
Very good. You have to realize that some fears are in place to keep us safe and some fears are not. And you have to understand the difference between the two. So if you are fearful of something like walking through a deserted alley at 1 a.m. in the morning, that's not very safe. So that's a fear that keeps us safe. So you want to listen to that. If you don't know how to swim, you're going to have a natural fear of going into the water. So not wanting to go in the water, that also keeps you safe because you'll drown if you don't know how to swim if you go into a pool or an ocean. But an example of an irrational fear is one where you are fear of flying, for example. You don't like flying, but there is no basis for being afraid to fly.
Well, sometimes you hear about plane crashes. I don't know, but overall it's safe,
right,
but it's still...
Statistically speaking, it's just as safe as if you were riding a car or a train. It's just as safe. It's not more unsafe than if you're riding in a car. So just think about that. Most of us are afraid to fly, but it's holding us back from enjoying life to its fullest potential.
I know, because sometimes I'll be like, I want to go to Africa, but I don't know if I can be on a plane that long, because there is that fear of really not being in control. Right. So I wonder if all of us have these fears, and you said there are two types, but some of them are irrational, and we have to move forward anyway.
Yes.
How do we know? I mean, how do we look at ourselves if it's something that we're trying to do with our lives and know that it's a fear that we should push past?
There you go. Well, you have to think about it if it's rational or if it's irrational. If it's irrational, then you have to think to yourself, well, I need to go past this. I need to work past this. Usually, we're afraid because of a different reason. Either we're afraid because we're afraid of what other people are going to think and say. Are people going to judge us? Are they going to laugh at what we're saying? Are we going to be ridiculed? So we're afraid of that. So that holds us back quite a bit. But the power comes in overcoming that fear. Once you are overcoming that fear, your language changes from I'm afraid to do this, I'm afraid to lose this job, I'm afraid to let this person go that I know is not good for me, to, well, I've lost my job in the past, I survived that struggle, I'll survive this one just the same.
So you have to begin to change your story behind the fear.
Yes.
And so I know coming up we're going to talk about some of those strategies, but I wonder, how does the fear even develop? Does it just start from an experience, do you find, when we're talking about the irrational fears? Are they just things we make up in our own mind, or how do you think most of us end up with these irrational fears that are holding us back?
Right. Most fears are irrational, and they usually start out very young. And of course, there are traumatic experiences that happen that make us fearful of certain situations. That's normal. But typical fears that are irrational come from just unknown situations. We're all fearful of the unknown. We don't know what's behind curtain number one. So we don't want to look behind there. We don't know. So we kind of shy away from what we don't understand, what's unfamiliar. People that are really young children are afraid of Santa Claus. How many pictures have we seen?
Of Santa Claus who's
exactly,
happy, yes.
The kids are screaming on Santa's knee. There's no reason to be afraid of Santa. But again, we grow up and we get past that. People are afraid of clowns when they're going to the circus as children. Some of us still are as adults.
But it's working past that. And the thing that I think is really interesting in working past that is, how do you begin the process, what do you tell people is critical to know that if they don't deal with this fear, how it could be impacting their life?
Right, that's a very good question. Well, the thing is, I do workshops on this, and we have to let people know that if you do not step past this fear, you are holding yourself back. You are not advancing to where you want to go. So you don't want to hold yourself back, because when we get past the fear, and that's the only way really is just to get past it, you realize on this side of the fear is so much more rewarding and not as big and scary as we thought when we were conjuring up this fear in our mind.
And when we come back, you're going to be giving us 5 strategies that we can implement today that can help us to do it anyway, even if we're afraid, how to move forward. 5 tips that we can put in place, and we'll be right back.
Coming up.
When your anxiety is there, you really can't focus or think rational. If fear is standing in the way of your success, today we're back with Tawana Kelly to show us 5 strategies to overcoming your fears. And we said this is so huge, Tawana, because you do workshops and you see all the time that this is holding people back. And you say you have to move forward regardless if you're fearful. And you have 5 strategies, because we're sitting here scared. We don't know if we're going to make it through this, but you're going to tell us. And I know one of the first things you say is that we have to take a time out. How is that a strategy for moving forward?
Well, what happens is when we're afraid, we have a lot of anxiety. So the best way to handle that is to go somewhere quiet and kind of like walk around the block. Take 15 minutes out, go to a quiet place, get a drink of soda or water, and just kind of walk around and kind of decompress. When you're in a more comfortable frame of mind, you start to think about things a little more rationally. Absolutely.
I can totally agree with that, because I think when your anxiety is there, you really can't focus or think rational. So that is really good. Number 2, you said don't expect perfection. I think this is so huge because I think that is one of the things that holds us back with that fear. We're like, what if we fear and fail?
Just realize that there is no perfection. Other people are not expecting perfection from you. So don't put that extra pressure on yourself. Realize they're not looking at you, judging you, waiting for you to fail. So don't put that extra added pressure thinking you have to be perfect. There is no perfection. Just do your best, and that's good enough for everyone.
And that releases you.
Yes.
That's a total release when I say I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect when I do this show.
Exactly.
I can just be in the moment.
No one else is perfect, so you don't have to be.
Okay, I love it. Number 3, you say visualize a safe place. You already told us to kind of get away. What do you mean by visualize a safe place?
What I mean by that is think of your favorite place. Do you like being on the beach in Hawaii? Is that one of your favorite places to go? Or your favorite restaurant with your favorite person? Think of the place that calms you the most and that makes you feel the most comfortable. Visit that place mentally and take about 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, just think and be there.
Well, you know, they used to say when you give a speech that picture everyone naked in the audience. It helps you because it takes you a different place. You're like, everybody's naked. So if everybody's naked in the audience, I can go ahead with this speech, no big deal.
True.
So I see what you say about taking yourself to another place so that you can regroup and reframe your mind. Next one, you say analyze all potential outcomes. I love that because I think if we always think the worst, then that's what we're kind of expecting. So what do you do when you say, look at all potential outcomes?
I do this all the time and it helps me considerably. When you're going into a situation, think of every possible outcome, good and bad, so that no matter what the outcome is, because we can't predict the outcome, you're prepared for it. So if I'm going into a new speech or a new place where I'm delivering a keynote speech or a workshop, I'm thinking, well, what if this goes wrong or what if that goes wrong? And I prepare for that just in case. If this goes right or this goes right, then I'm great. I prepare for that. So when it happens, I'm like, okay, I've got to figure it out in my mind. We're going to do this and we're going to move past it.
And it doesn't have as much power.
Absolutely.
I love that.
We get rid of the power.
And the last thing you say, feel the fear, tongue twister there, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Absolutely.
Why is that so powerful as a last final thought?
There you go. Susan Jeffries put together this book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and it's been the biggest lifesaver ever because we're going to feel fear. The biggest thing is just to feel it and just move forward anyway. Do not let it paralyze you because that's where you get stuck in life. Understand we all feel fear. You're not alone in that. Just say, okay, I'm going to do this anyway and move right on past it.
And I guess probably once you've done it once and you move past the initial fear, it gets easier and easier and easier. And long after that, it's not even a big deal to you anymore.
Exactly. Once you give the first, whatever it is you're trying to do, you're going to be good. The first time I ever gave a speech, I was petrified. I'd never spoken in front of people. After I'd done that, I was on an adrenaline high. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. So you do it, and then you get past it, and I'm like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
And then you end up living your best life because it's nothing is holding you back. Some
That's
good
exactly
advice.
correct.
You call yourself the fear-busting advancement coach,
That's me.
and you're helping people to move past their fears. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
Up next on The Joy Sutton Show.